everyone. Welcome to Frank's YouTube page. I'm Nick Durst. I'm going to host this evening because we have two feisty rivals here, former best friends, former tag team partners, but apparently Frank, he went all HBK on Marty Jannetty James over here, kicked him through the window, and now they've become quite the rivals, different points of opinions, different views. So let's welcome them in. First, of course, we got Frank. Frank, what's going on?
Oh, yeah, because I saw the lust in your eyes, Hogan. I saw the lust in your eyes.
And then, of course, we have returning to Wrestling Talk. This is his second show of the year, I think, already, or second show in 2 weeks. And that's James Joseph Faluca.
James Joseph.
What's shaking? What's shaking, everybody?
All right, guys. So lots to discuss right now, WWE, but we have a new year. So let's look back to the last year real quick. And Rolling Stone names their Wrestler of the Year as The Miz. So I'll let Frank go first. Was that deserving, or was it kind of weird? What are your thoughts?
I don't know. I honestly, he deserves some type of award. But if we're gonna talk real, it's probably got something worked out with the WWE Rolling Stone magazine, just to play up with his character. You know, just to make to keep his character. It goes according to his character. You know, he's the A-lister. He's the A-lister, and he's must see. You know.
James, I'm sure you disagree with this, but who out of WWE superstars do you think would have been more deserving?
I personally don't have a problem with The Miz getting that award because I felt he vastly improved. But if I was going to give someone an award because of them being great all around, I would give it to AJ Styles. That's just me. But again, I had no problem with The Miz hearing that The Miz got that type of award. I personally felt the award he should have gotten in the previous year was the WWE Championship. And I'm sad to hear that he never got that.
Absolutely. And we'll touch on it in a second. But first, I just want to read you this quick comment he made on winning. And at the end of it, I'm sure you'll really enjoy this, James. So he wrote, "The IC title became the most talked about, most relevant, most prestigious title in WWE. That's because, the Universal title was missing. But no title was featured more, whether on live events, Raw, pay-per-view appearances, signings, and/or television, radio interviews. As much as I like to give myself all the credit, WWE isn't a one-man show. Takes not only another dance partner to the ring, but so many people behind the scenes. Thank you to all who made this happen." And then he wraps it up by saying, better luck next year, Roman. That's what he said. So how do you like that?
No, well, if you see if you read between the lines, he pretty much reaffirms what I said. Like I said, this is a work award. It's like a media award. It's the way it's WWE's way of rewarding The Miz for all that he does for the company, his appearances, doing the movies. But this is no way has to do with anything about wrestling.
Well, it's not. Well, I guess it's Wrestler of the Year. Yeah, I was thinking it was more Superstar of the Year. Yeah. But back to James's point about him getting the WWE title, we both agreed that he should have probably won the Royal Rumble last year, and then that would have been a better way to turn AJ Styles face instead of him just shaking Shane McMahon's hand a week after WrestleMania. That was pretty dumb, right, James?
I couldn't agree more. I don't think that AJ belonged wrestling Shane McMahon to begin with. He should have been in one of two positions. He should have either been winning the WWE title or he should have been retiring The Undertaker. That's what I think.
The Miz?
He should have either been winning the belt from The Miz or he should have been putting The Undertaker down.
Oh, you're talking about AJ Styles?
Absolutely. Absolutely. AJ Styles was the MVP of that company in 2016, and what he got as a reward was the curtain jerk WrestleMania. And I know that I'm in the minority in this discussion, but your spot on the card does matter. Because otherwise, why would you want to aspire to be better? If you don't mind curtain jerking, fine. But in the main event is where you make the real money.
He definitely should have been the WWE title match. Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton was a total disaster. I said it when Randy Orton won the Royal Rumble. It was disgusting. And then all of their matches between the two of them were horrendous. True House of Horrors to watch them.
I didn't watch anything past WrestleMania, but their WrestleMania match was a stinker. If they were just going to have Orton betray him and then fight him in a grudge match, I'd have been fine with it. But that match had no business having the belt because Bray wasn't built up to the point, and you guys know I love Bray, but him getting the belt really wasn't right because he wasn't built up to actually get the belt. It's like Jinder Mahal, no offense. He was jobbing for years, and then they just put the belt on him. It's like what I've been trying to explain to you guys for years. You could put the belt on someone, but if they're not built up to deserve it, no one's going to care. And no one cared about Jinder Mahal, and that's why he ended up being taken out of that Survivor Series match with Brock, and that's why AJ got put in, because they knew that Jinder was a flop.
And this is where the differencing of opinion comes in. So, Frank, why don't you tell your listeners as to why you believe that Bray Wyatt did indeed get a push and got a bigger push than probably 3/4 of the roster?
Yes, he did start getting the big push going into Survivor Series, and the Royal Rumble. That whole thing, he was really, really clicking on all cylinders when he had Randy Orton under his spell, let's say, and then that whole angle fell apart when Randy Orton turned on him. I mean, we all knew Randy Orton was going to turn on him, but I really liked the chemistry.
Wrong guy won that, dude.
Yeah, I really liked the chemistry with Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt. I think they were really good together. As they were really like Randy Orton was Bray Wyatt's destructive tool. Like he finally had a destructive tool. He didn't have, Luke Harper and Eric Rowan, and then it just fell apart. The second Orton turned on him, it fell apart. I thought they could have kept that going longer.
Well, the problem is, and I know neither of you want to hear this, but I have to say it. Why would anyone take Bray Wyatt seriously when he loses where it matters the most?
Yeah, but
I'm sorry,
but
he's the reverse Undertaker.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying, but up until
well, he was winning when it mattered most. That year, right?
Yeah. They were he was winning a lot of matches. He was
WrestleMania, the Royal Rumble.
No, but that's after.
SummerSlam.
That's after. I'm saying he was really, really being built to as the number one guy on SmackDown, and then as soon as Randy Orton betrayed him or turned on him, then that's when it all fell apart.
But anyway, where does it matter most, Frank? What? Well, I understand it anyway, but I'm sorry, Bray Wyatt, every WrestleMania is made to look like a joke. Why would anyone take him seriously? I'm sorry, but wins and losses do matter. Despite what Road Dogg says, wins and losses do matter.
Well, listen,
and Bray Wyatt proof of that.
Listen, plenty of top guys don't win too much at WrestleMania. Jericho's lost a lot at WrestleMania. Triple H has lost.
Yes, but guess what, Frank? Yes, but guess what? Yes, you're right. Guys like Foley, guys like Flair, guys like Jericho, they have lost numerous times. But you're also talking about Chris Jericho, Mick Foley, and Ric Flair, actual money-drawing guys. It didn't hurt them to lose a lot because they still had their legacy to fall back on. Bray Wyatt does not have that. Well, so it really doesn't fit. It really don't fit. He doesn't.
I don't want to keep talking to make this whole thing about Bray Wyatt. It's just that once Randy Orton.
Neither do I, but.
Once Randy Orton turned on him in that angle,
can we all agree that Randy Orton has been absolutely horrendous the last 8 years and does this? It's just
all the members of the Breakfast Club have been horrendous the last few years. Triple H hasn't had a memorable match.
But see, I really thought Randy Orton with Bray Wyatt I thought that freshened up Randy Orton too. He started wearing different clothes. He started wearing the hoodie. He had like a fresh coat of paint. But I don't know. Let's just move on from Bray Wyatt. What else?
So obviously, James mentioned that he thought Bray Wyatt or AJ Styles should have ended the streak with Undertaker.
That ended the streak. He should have put the Undertaker down in his last match. Right. It would have been way more helpful because all this time later, I asked the question. Did it help Roman Reigns to beat him?
Well, this is what I wanted to transition to. So, as we know, we got Raw, the 25th anniversary special coming up, and they said Undertaker's going to be there. To me, that makes no sense unless you're going to have him come out, right? And then Roman Reigns is going to spear him and beat the crap out of him and turn heel. Otherwise, James, it doesn't make any sense for Undertaker to be back on television.
Nick, for the first time in a long time, you and I are in 100% agreement. Because if The Undertaker's going to return just to have another fight, then what was the point of him taking his gloves off and doing the whole thing that made grown-ass men like myself hysterical crying at the end of WrestleMania? It made absolutely no sense. I still don't get it. And quite honestly, you know, I don't know what to believe anymore. I think that they're trying to throw out so many different... And don't think for a second that they don't send out false reports to try to throw the fans off.
Of course.
Because you know, they could very easily put Taker in that match with Cena, like I think they will, or they could have thrown that out to throw everyone off because Cena is going to win the Rumble.
Well, I don't. Let's not go too deep.
Remember, he's a free agent; he can go wherever he wants.
He's in the Rumble, we know that. But James, like, what, or even Frank, really, Frank, answer this. What is Undertaker going to do on this show? Like, is he gonna come out with Kane and like help Kane get ready to face Brock Lesnar and Strowman? Like, what could he possibly do?
What, is he promoted that he's going to appear on the 25th anniversary show?
He's 100% going to be on it there. I
don't know. Maybe he, like I said, I told James this. I envisioned him appearing like in the middle of a match. The lights go dark, and he appears, and him choke slamming Roman Reigns and causing him a shot at the title.
So there you go. He's going to help The Miz get the Intercontinental title back. Frank told you first. But the other thing that I wanted to say here with James, because we discussed this off air, was that I thought The Undertaker, after the end of the era match, should have retired because that match makes, looking back on it, makes no sense. What era did it end? HBK was a special guest referee again. Triple H went on to win the Royal Rumble as champ and become WWE champion. Main event WrestleMania. He's wrestling every year at WrestleMania. He beats Sting, and The Undertaker went on to have a ton more matches. So I don't understand.
You're 1,000% right, Nick. Again, you're in a. I don't know. Maybe this is a full moon tonight because Nick and I are agreeing a lot.
It actually is a full moon. That's why it's high tide right here for the bomb cycle snow.
Oh yeah. Well, I think you know what I think that they never really meant. It was the end of their primes.
For sure.
That's what it meant. It was the end.
You want to know what, Frank? 1,000% right. Because Taker, much as I love him, hasn't had a great match since.
And same thing with Triple H. Triple H has had. He hasn't really had a great match since that match. That was his last great match.
No, he hasn't.
Right.
No.
The Undertaker Roman Reigns match was probably his worst match in a long time. And you saw like Roman looked so stupid having to run the ropes so Undertaker could catch his breath. And I remember Frank was laughing at that. It's really dumb.
But like I said, the story that match told, I told James this whole time, was that Father Time beat The Undertaker. It wasn't. First of all, let's get this straight. It was supposed to be Cena and The Undertaker. That was supposed to be the match. But Cena, being the political whiz that he is, he backed out of that match because he knew that was going to hurt his fan base.
Well, I think Cena did the right thing because he realized it didn't make sense for him to end his career, even though it's a lot of us don't like Roman Reigns. It made more sense to go with the younger talent. What do you think, James?
What I think is, if Roman Reigns was going to be, and if you go back and watch Frank and I's last show before WrestleMania, I had no problem with Roman beating him. What I had a problem with was knowing the heat he was going to get and not turning him heel. And Nick, I think this is where you and I kind of fall off. That is the main reason that I have so much contempt for John Cena. He helped create this idea, okay, for the hero to be hated by a large portion of the audience. And I could tell you unequivocally, it is not. Because when you are trying to promote someone as a hero and the crowd hates them, you've got a problem. And the problem I had with that match was not Roman beating him, because I knew it was going to happen. There was nothing anyone could tell me or convince me that Reigns wasn't winning that match. What I had a problem with was that he went out the next night on Raw in front of a crowd that gave the biggest heel response to any wrestler I could think of in my 25 years of watching, and they refused to turn him heel. Now, Frank was of the belief that Reigns was already a heel, but yet the very next week he was saying, "Oh, I respect The Undertaker. I just did what I had to do." You kidding me? Come on.
Right. So
they should have turned him.
The thing with Roman is, and you said he's presented as a hero, to Frank's point, the whole year he's done so many non-hero things, like steal a car, try to kill somebody, like all these things have not been hero. And then there was even a point in the summer, I know I spoke to Frank about this, where at a house show, everyone was chanting Undertaker. He grabbed the mic and he said, if Undertaker wants, I could beat his ass again. That's not a hero to me.
Yeah, I understand that, but he is portrayed by the company as the #1 babyface. If he was a villain, the announcers would be calling it differently. He would be portrayed differently. There is a difference between a heel and a face. And is it a coincidence that since they've tried to cut back the heel and face dynamics, that business has suffered somewhat?
Yes, but
because Frank, you know as well as I do what a face and a heel is. You want a good example of a heel? 2000 Triple H. You want a good example of a hero? 1989 Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. There are faces and there are heels.
In WWE now, when I look at it, there's really only one true heel, and that's The Miz. Everyone else is like getting cheers, getting boos, and they need to be.
Well, but do you want to know the reason for that, Nick?
Booking.
A lot of them are portrayed wrong.
Well, that's
a lot of them are in the wrong.
There's no clear-cut thing anymore. Like, for instance, like all these heel turns and face turns are like so nonchalant. It's supposed to be a beatdown, or you run out and help somebody. That's the way you're supposed to do a face heel turn, not like, all right, let me shake this guy's hand and then maybe all of a sudden they'll think I'm face.
And also on the flip
side, that's because they don't know how to tell stories anymore. I've been saying that for years.
What do you think, Frank?
That's been my whole point.
Also, I'm saying on the flip side, there really isn't like a clear-cut traditional baby face.
Right.
Like, who gets shared these days?
Well, the only guy they're trying to make a clear-cut baby face and it doesn't work at all is Kurt Angle's son, Jason Jordan.
Right, but even that now, you could tell like
they're gonna make him heel. He's gonna turn up. He's gonna have a big match at Mania with Seth Rollins.
Right, he's already being like he's being like a troll.
And you know what? Kurt Angle said it. He said Vince did the same thing with me when I debuted. I was like, I need to be this clean-cut guy, and he was like, no, you got to be a heel, but we're gonna make you present it as a clean-cut guy. Everyone's gonna hate you. It worked. They're trying to do that with Jason Jordan, and he gets booed pretty badly. And the whole storyline's so dumb. But back to Raw 25, and we'll start with James. 25 years of Raw. No other show's been on this long. And I just want to ask you, what is your one favorite moment in Raw history, if you could narrow it down?
If I could narrow it down, if I may, there are two moments that really resonate with me. Two moments. One from 2014, the other from 1998. 2014, the Occupy Raw segment where Daniel Bryan those phony fans in the ring, because they weren't fans, they were probably people from the back. Fans come into the ring, surround the ring, and demand that the Authority give him his match with Triple H. And then he swerved everyone at the end, saying, if I beat you, I won in that world title match. Because to me, what that moment represented, and I think it's the main reason they will never allow Daniel Bryan to wrestle in the ring again, it was living proof that if people care enough, they can make things happen. Because you and I both know, and Nick, back in 2013 and 14, you and I caught a lot of shit for this. Daniel Bryan was never supposed to be in the main event of WrestleMania 30. He was jobbing to Sheamus.
His annual match with Sheamus.
He was jobbing to Sheamus. He was jobbing to Sheamus, sixth match down, and because Punk took the walk and Batista got rejected, they had no choice but to change plans. I love that moment because of what it represents. It represents that the fans still had power. And the other moment, which the child in me calls out to, was the night that Mike Tyson joined DX. But it's what happened at the end of the show. Paul Bearer was in the ring with Kane, and they did a 10-bell salute to the memory of The Undertaker because Kane apparently destroyed him at the Rumble by burning him in the casket. And The Undertaker made, in my book, his greatest return when he came out of a casket that was hit by a lightning bolt and delivered one of the best promos he's ever cut, challenging his brother to WrestleMania, and the crowd went nuts. It was living proof that you didn't have to be in the title match to matter. So long as you were given the time and so long as you were treated like you mattered, you could. And guess what? Austin winning the belt from Shawn Michaels was a big deal because it set the course for what was to come. But Undertaker versus Kane in their very first match was as big a story as anything else. Those are my favorite Raw moments. What about you, Frank?
I don't know. I'm trying to think. There's just so many. I don't know if I have a favorite.
Well, you keep thinking. I'll give you some of mine. The first one I think of is when I see Shane McMahon show up on my screen from Nitro, and I was like, "What the hell is going on?" And that was
the simulcast.
That was crazy. I was actually watching Nitro at the time, and then I was like, "What the heck?" And I kept flipping channels, and I was like, "This is nuts." That was really the end. That was the true end of an era, despite what they'll tell you about marketing wise. The other one I would say is when The Rock finally returned to host WrestleMania, and he did like a 45-minute promo starting at 11 p.m. I was like so joyous and happy to have him back, and it was.
That was a big deal. That was a very big deal.
Frank, you got anything?
Not favorites, but memorable. I guess. Maybe from the early '90s, a memorable Raw moment was when the 1-2-3 Kid beat Razor Ramon. That was pretty good.
Yeah, definitely. I thought James was going to say CM Punk for sure, but luckily he didn't.
Listen. As much as I admire Punk from a professional standpoint, personally, I can't stand him.
Right, and James,
that's what most of you guys forget.
Thank goodness he didn't end the streak, because imagine he ended the streak and then walked out.
Yeah,
I said that to someone the other day, so that's why I'm glad he didn't. I don't even think he should have wrestled Taker that year. Taker should have stayed home.
All right, so let's move on. Since we're talking about the 90s, we got to talk about the early 2000s, and we got to talk about Alpha Entertainment, and we have to talk about the return of the XFL. It's coming back, we think, hopefully. I think this time, it's going to work. This is why, guys. As we know, WWE has been at the forefront of the digital revolution, and Vince is not thinking cable deals here. He's thinking, we're going to be able to have Alpha Entertainment. He's going to probably make his own sports network as similar to WWE. He's going to buy up rights to different types of leagues, and he's going to broadcast the games on his digital platform. And that's I think that's the only way that it really could succeed. Also, to keep this in mind, there's so many big names who are no longer in the NFL, such as Johnny Manziel, Robert Griffin III, Colin Kaepernick. Tim Tebow was too busy with the Mets, so he wouldn't play. Vince Young, Ray Rice. Vince is a smart businessman. He's going to go after these guys, and he's going to make them the stars of his league and market around them. And there's people with all these social issues and whatnot, they're going to tune in for this. And there's going to be a lot of these players who are going to say, let me play in here and do what Rod Smart did, a.k.a. He Hate Me, and Tommy Maddox. And the people will watch me play here, and then I can also jump from here back to the NFL. The other thing to keep in mind here with this is the age limit. It might be lowered, and this might be an alternative to student athletes. They can go play here instead of wasting time in the crooked NCAA playing there, where they could go get paid for 3 years and then jump to the NFL. Frank, we'll let you tackle this one first.
Listen, I don't know. It smells like a bad idea. The first time around, everything it felt right, but it just comes down to the talent. Come on, when you watch football, it comes down to the talent. Otherwise, what are you going to make it, like a cartoon? I don't know.
I think the talent will be a lot better this time around, and because of the people that are outcasted. If he goes to the college athletes, and also keep in mind the first time around, the ratings were very good, but then the NFL got mad. They said to NBC, if you ever want our product back on your network, stop promoting this. That's why NBC eventually pulled the plug. But those games I enjoy.
Isn't that kind of what Vince did? Isn't that kind of what Vince did when he wanted to do Survivor Series and he said, well, if you want WrestleMania, you got to show my Survivor Series and not Starrcade. Didn't he kind of do the same thing?
Yes, and he got got bitten this time, but that's how NBC got their deal back. But a lot of the technology you see in football now, such as the many different camera angles on the field, the overhead camera, Vince McMahon created those, and the NFL stole them. So, I mean, James, do you think that this could succeed just based on the fact of that the NFL ratings are down? You could go into capitalize on that?
What I think is this. I could only go by history. And every other venture that Vince McMahon has attempted that wasn't professional wrestling, he has fallen flat on his face. So he needs to show me something else in order for me to believe that this is going to be a success. Hey, listen, maybe in a few years, he will be the genius with this, and the rest of us who are doubting him will look like idiots. But if I go by history, everything that he's done aside from professional wrestling, he has largely failed.
Right.
So he has.
Here is that a lot of people think, oh, this will mean he'll step away from WWE. I think it's the opposite. I think he's going to found the company and then hire a football guy to run it this time instead of stepping away from WWE and letting somebody else run WWE. I think he'll oversee it, but I think he's learned from his mistake. And if you watch the documentary, 30 for 30, which is really good, he kept alluding to like he wants to try it again, and he's got the money to do it. So he'll give it a shot. Hopefully it works out because it'll be more entertaining for us fans and give us a nice thing to watch in like February when there's really nothing going on and we can't really get excited about the New York Mets because they don't spend any money. We know Vince is going to spend money and try to put a good.
Yeah, that's Nick. Nick is 1,000% right when it comes to the Mets organization. They're not willing to spend money. They're not willing to invest in guys, and guys that do produce for them, they end up letting go to other teams. And Daniel Murphy's a perfect example of that.
Vince invests money, and Frank broke the news today that Vince is about to pay up for the Beast, Brock Lesnar. Frank, tell everybody what you heard about Brock Lesnar.
Well, the rumor is that it's starting to look like that Brock won't return to UFC, and that the WWE is looking to extend his contract past WrestleMania to SummerSlam, which fuels reports that they have plans maybe of keeping the belt on him until SummerSlam.
I'm not surprised he's staying because one, he's suspended in UFC, and
right.
He's supposed to face John Jones, who's also suspended. So that's more like maybe next year. But for now, he's going to be there. He's making too much money, James.
Listen.
And he barely works for him not to stay WWE.
Whatever you think about Brock Lesnar, every week, every time he makes a TV appearance, the crowd pops. I keep telling James, he is the number one baby face on Raw right now. He's the champion.
No, he's not. No, he's not.
You haven't watched, so you haven't watched. So you can't, how do you know? How do you know what kind?
I know I haven't watched, but I know that I haven't watched, Frank. But I know that if Roman Reigns was removed from his number one spot, I would know about it.
All right, but
I would know about it.
You don't know the crowd reaction that Brock is getting. He's getting massively.
I'm not denying that Brock gets cheered. I'm not denying that he gets cheered. In the eyes of the fans, maybe Brock is, but in the eyes of Vince McMahon, the number one guy is Roman Reigns. I hate to tell you.
But long term, maybe, James. But
yeah, and that's a problem. A guy that gets booed shouldn't be the number one babyface.
We have to keep going through this. Listen, James, Roman Reigns hasn't had the title in over a year and a half.
No, but he got to retire the Undertaker in the main event. And I understand that you think he's the old Taker. It's still the Undertaker. To the masses, he's still the Undertaker. To the masses, he's still the Undertaker.
Whatever.
Listen, I hate to tell you.
And you and Dave Meltzer now, you might be eating a lot of crow. You and a lot of fans of that. You are very mad about Roman Reigns having the Coronation 3 at WrestleMania again. So it's looking like now that Roman will not even sniff the title at WrestleMania.
Well, this is what I got to say. We'll transition here because the Royal Rumble's coming up. And other than the fact that Elias is probably going to enter number one and put on an awesome rock concert, the guy's a superstar, right, Frank?
I've liked him since the first time, since very early. I think he's money, James. He's starting to get over.
Elias is the best booked NXT call-up ever.
Yeah,
right, Frank?
I agree. Yeah, he's really starting to take off. Like he's about to jump another level.
Right. So he's gonna probably enter number one to play his song. But then the match itself, I think Roman Reigns is winning, and I seen as the other guy that could win. Frank obviously doesn't think that's the case. What do you think, James?
Well, neither guy should be winning the Rumble.
Right, but
neither one of those two guys should be winning.
Who do you think is actually going to win? I don't see there being any other possibilities other than those two.
Oh, I think either Cena or Roman Reigns is winning. Neither one of them should.
All right, and Frank, who do you think's winning?
I explained my theory already in my previous video. I think in the triple threat match, I think Kane is in that match to take the pin.
Of course.
Brock's going to retain, and I think then Braun's
going to win.
Will be pissed, and he's going to enter the Rumble, and he's going to go to WrestleMania. You look at the clues on Raw right now. The clues is that Braun is the man. They're pushing as Braun as the.
I think James, they're gonna do Braun. They're gonna do what they just should have done last year. That's Braun versus Big Show and Big Show's retirement match.
I don't know about that. I think right now,
Braun is I would tune into WrestleMania. I would watch WrestleMania if I thought for a second
that Braun could win the title.
No, I would tune into WrestleMania if I thought for a second that someone would be challenging for the belt that the people actually are behind. But since that's not going to happen,
but Frank's got Braun losing at Mania. Then he thinks.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if I keep telling James between Survivor Series and WrestleMania, there's going to be a lot of tests.
Right.
And of the tests now, especially now that Dean Ambrose went down, there's no more Shield. Roman is still pretty much getting booed. They hindered him with the IC belt. So
this is what I think is going to happen with the Rumble. Those are the two options, but it's either going to there's one or two ways it's going to happen. If they do Roman versus Miz at Rumble and Roman retains, then he won't even be in the match. Cena's going to win, and then they're going to do a champion versus champion match at Mania. They're going to think, oh, it's like Ultimate Warrior versus Hogan. No, it's not. And Reigns is going to walk out of Mania the IC Universal Champ, and Cena will go into Mania as the Rumble winner. But if Roman loses, then he's going to do what he did last year, enter the Rumble, and he's going to win this time, like he did back in Philly the last time it was there.
And it worked, yeah, because it worked so well the last time.
Right. And just keep this in mind, last year, they knew what they were doing with Roman to put him in the match, because if he didn't enter that match last and it come down to him and Orton would have been booed so bad for winning. Don't you agree, Frank?
Yeah. See, that's what I'm saying.
He was literally the Shield last year.
Right. See, that's what I'm saying. Roman, I know James is going to keep rolling his eyes, and I can't see him. I think right now, I think the best role Roman could play is the upper middle card guy who works the good matches. But that's it. They're going to keep him. They're going to continuously keep him warm. Just in case, but
James, what's the record for consecutive main events at Mania? Is it Hulk Hogan with 5? I think that's correct.
No, because he only main evented 3 in a row. He didn't main event 4.
So he only main evented 4 straight WrestleManias?
No, actually it is 5 because he main evented 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9.
Okay, so I think James will agree with me here that Roman's going to probably main event at least 5 in a row, maybe 6. What do you think, James?
I think it would take brass balls for them to do that, because I would love for someone to explain to me what it's going to take for them to go back to how things were, where when the people the crowd hated were the villains and the people the crowd liked were the heroes. Because when they had their backs up against the wall with WCW, Vince so badly wanted to be known as the good guy in the whole Bret Hart Montreal thing. But he recognized it wasn't working. So instead, you know what he turned around? He said, fine, if they want to think I'm the devil incarnate, great, let's go there. I'd like to know what happened to that Vince McMahon, because back then he took pride in the product he had on television. And I don't think that they have any professional pride. I know you guys think that they're doing just fine, that there's nothing wrong, everything's A-okay. It's not the case.
Frank, I could just feel James rolling his eyes. Because
What is it going to take for you guys to get that the number one babyface should be the most popular guy in the company? That is a given.
James, the reality is they are making changes. This isn't John Cena 2.0.
And then, like Frank, like you always say to James, it's like, you know, this guy's, he's like living in the past. He's always looking back in time with his PTCS.
Yeah, listen. The reality is Roman Reigns hasn't sniffed the world title since the summer of 2000.
Well, what's going to be your excuse after he? All right, so then I ask you this question, Frank. What's going to be your excuse after he beats Brock? Then what are you going to say?
If he does, man. Up until then I'll say, James, you're right. But as each day passes, I'm looking.
But listen, you know, sometimes I think Frank, and let's hear me out before you interrupt, James. You're not going to like this. Sometimes Vince is right, because dating back 2 years, Vince leaked it that he wanted to do Braun versus Brock at WrestleMania. The fans revolted, and now everybody's craving that match, Frank. They all want to see Braun versus Brock.
Because Braun Strowman's a completely different performer than he was 2 years ago, right or wrong, Frank?
Because he still had the stench of Bray Wyatt on.
Right. I mean, Bray Wyatt, he totally destroyed Luke Harper and Braun Strowman.
Yes. No, they thought Braun was just a big.
Did he destroy them, or did his lack of credibility destroy them? Because if you think about it,
he was like their henchman. Bray Wyatt never wrestles, Frank. He's got the easiest schedule. He just does backstage.
And whose fault is that? And who decides that? You guys both say that like he has control over when he performs, and I think that's hysterical.
Listen, it's good. No, what they do, they hide his weaknesses and increase his strengths. His strengths
is wrestling, because he has no stamina.
Yeah, listen. I saw him wrestle. What was it, Monday against Apollo Crews?
Cena has no ring psychology when it comes to long matches. He needs to kick out of 20 finishes.
Please,
you're going to throw stones, and you're going to live. And you're throwing stones, Nick, and you live in a glass house, brah.
See, listen, but I saw Monday, and seriously, I don't have any favorites, but I saw Monday when Bray Wyatt against Apollo Crews. He just looks, he's like really fat, and he's laboring in there. He's like, I don't know, he doesn't look good. Like, I don't know. It's like he's taking a lot.
Let me ask you a question, Frank. Would you think really good of yourself if in every big match situation you're made to look like a bitch? Would you be all that high on yourself? I know I wouldn't. I partially blame him too, because he hasn't had the balls to go to Vince and say, "What the fuck are you doing? How am I supposed to be something?"
Why doesn't he go on a diet? Why doesn't he go on a diet? Why does he work out a little bit?
That's true.
But at least
why didn't Dusty Rhodes?
He's too busy cheating on his wife.
Why didn't Dusty Rhodes?
Listen, I got to give Bray credit though. He's tapping JoJo. That's a very big. I rather tap JoJo than win the title.
He should just team up with his brother and do a tag team. But the most anticipated match of 2018, and we're only 4 days into it, is the Women's Royal Rumble. So James, as a person who doesn't watch wrestling anymore at WWE. What was your reaction when you heard they were going to finally do a Women's Royal Rumble match?
I wasn't surprised. I knew they were going to do a Women's Royal Rumble once they did the Hell in a Cell. Once they did the Hell in a Cell match with Charlotte and Sasha, I knew that someday they would do a Rumble. I just didn't know when.
All right. And Frank, I'm sure you agreed that, you know, once, even not necessarily the Hell in a Cell, once they did Money in the Bank, that it was probably going to happen. So the question here is, there's about 22 females on the main roster, and that includes Charlotte and Alexa Bliss, who are champs who won't be in the match. Then you have to assume they might have a regular title match at the pay-per-view. So that leaves 10 people who are going to be in this match who are either in NXT or who are retired. So I'm assuming we're going to see Trish, we're going to see Lita, we're going to see Beth Phoenix. My question is, since this is the first one, and we'll go to James first, does it hurt the match overall and the current product that they're going to have upwards of 5 former wrestlers coming back out of retirement?
It won't hurt the match that former names are in it, because that's part of what makes the Rumble special, is surprises. The only thing I think that would hurt it is if one of those women who's not around wins it.
Right.
That's the only way they can hurt. The only way they can hurt this match is if they have someone who's never around wins it. They need to have someone who's there day in and day out to win that Rumble.
All right,
that's all I say.
Frank, what do you think? What do you think about?
I agree with James. And there was also this rumor last week that Ronda Rousey might.
That would be really dumb because one, she can't wrestle yet, and then two, if she loses, her credibility is gone.
Right. So if she comes in, you gotta just put the rocket ship on her.
Right.
But listen, we all know Asuka's gonna win the Rumble.
Right, and that's what I really hate because they make it's just too obvious who's gonna win these matches. There's no element of like who's gonna win. There's no guessing.
Nick, you just summed up, Nick. You just summed up my last 12 years of watching.
But you know what? Maybe Asuka might not win because that she could get eliminated and she would still be undefeated.
That'd be she's really not undefeated. They did the same thing with like Kurt Angle. He lost his streak in a tag match, and Taz too.
Right. Oh, see, there you go. That's WWE. That's
right. I think there's only one choice who should really win. That's Nia Jax. It's the only one that makes sense. But the big people never win the match. They're the favorites. They always lose. They get teamed up on. Who would you like to see win the match, James, and then Frank?
Asuka.
All right, so James wants to go with the obvious, and Frank, who do you want to win?
I mean, Asuka, but maybe they're going to set up a big match at WrestleMania with Charlotte and somebody. Who knows? Maybe
I think as far as SmackDown goes, there's probably not going to be the Rumble winner because SmackDown roster is like so like not set up properly for the women's division where nobody's a legitimate threat to Charlotte as a face. So they really have no choice but to do like Carmella is going to have to cash in before then, and then.
But can't the winners pick who they want to face?
Well, we don't know. We don't know since in the last 2 years because we haven't seen it done yet. I'm sure one of these years they're going to do it, but I think they'd probably save that surprise for like the men's match. That's what I would think.
Right.
Because of the men's match, we talked about this guy earlier. It would make a lot of sense again. To have, like me and you were talking about, have The Miz win the Rumble on Raw and send him to SmackDown because SmackDown's really bad roster-wise, and that he could take on AJ Styles. He doesn't have to win, but that would be a really good promo to going towards Mania. They need to have strong people on the heels going into the match.
Well, Frank and I both agree that brand split did more to hurt SmackDown than help it because SmackDown was starting to get a big upside. And
the original
Frank and I are in agreement.
Brand split worked when it was Ambrose, Ambrose, Cena, Styles, Ziggler, and Miz. They were carrying the show. But then last year, when they switched the rosters again, that really hurt SmackDown.
No, they did because they took Bray Wyatt, they took the Miz, they made John Cena go on both shows. So and Frank and I are in agreement that the reason they did that was because Vince didn't like that SmackDown was a much more popular show because he wants Raw to be the number one.
Not him. USA really. Raw is the flagship show. Raw will always be the flagship show. So they have to keep it strong.
Well, like SmackDown right now is doing what what Frank said WWE is all about. It's a show about the McMahon family with wrestlers surrounding them. It's all about Shane McMahon right now, right, Frank?
Yeah, and now they have this angle with him and Daniel Bryan, where Daniel Bryan is like really kind of being a heel.
Yeah, so we'll see how that turns out. Now let's wrap up with this. So
please tell me that's not true, Frank. Please tell me that's not true.
Yeah, he keeps screwing over.
Movement.
He keeps screwing over Shane, and he seems to be siding with Kevin Owens.
Frank, James, have you heard what the WWE title match is at Royal Rumble, right?
No.
It's a handicap match. I don't know how it's going to work, but it's KO and Zayn versus AJ Styles.
Yeah, because AJ Styles got pissed off Tuesday, and he's like, you know what? Why don't you just make it a handicap match? And Daniel Bryan's like, okay. Sure, yeah. That's it. We're going to make it a handicap match.
So I hope Sami Zayn wins the title. But I don't know how
the way that works. The only way that match works is if Sami takes the pin and then KO turns on him. Because if they take the belt off AJ Styles, that would be such a disservice for everything
I would be fine
he's done for them.
I'd be fine with Sami Zayn being WWE champion.
What if they do a crazy thing like they're both the champion?
That's what they're going to do.
Well, then where does that leave AJ? then where does that leave AJ Styles?
Oh, he got a rematch. They got time before Mania.
AJ could do. AJ could. He's bulletproof. AJ. He could lose titles, and they could always.
Yeah, he can. Should he though?
No.
That's the question.
He should walk into WrestleMania as champion.
He should be main eventing WrestleMania.
Well,
that's what I say.
I'd rather he main event than Brock and Roman, but Brock's going to main event. Frank, there's no way he's not going to main event.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Of course he is.
Listen, let's move on because they'll wrap it up with this. The other big WWE news is that there's going to be a new show exclusively on Facebook called the Mixed Tag Show, and it's going to be just what it sounds, mixed tag matches. It's going to be a tournament. Everybody liked the Cruiserweight tournament and the Women's tournament, so I'm sure the tournament itself will be very good. But what I find very interesting here is that this is Facebook realizing, what a global presence WWE has. Listen to how many likes they have on their Facebook page. 38,653,563. That's just likes. And this is going to be a free show on Facebook. Facebook's paying them. The advertisers are going to want to be in on this. Even if you get a quarter of these likes to watch the show, that's a ton of people watching the show. And to me, personally, this shows me that the media is moving away from pay-per-view rates and just strict ratings, and they're moving more towards, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and different digital types of mediums. And we'll let Frank go first, and then James will give his rebuttal.
Okay, yeah, I first saw this yesterday. I saw a clip with Bobby Roode and Charlotte. They're going to be a team, and they look like they had good chemistry together. But as far as the digital media, yeah, listen, it's just it's going to happen. I mean, you said this, Nick. There's going to be a shift in the next few years, a shift away from TV, and social media is where it's going to be at.
And here comes James to disagree. Go ahead, James.
Them going digital should not mean that they sit on their laurels creatively. That's all I have to say.
Oh, of course not. Of course not.
Yeah, but
lately that's been used as a crutch, as a reason why they don't have to do their best.
Listen,
and I think that's
rated show on television this whole week. So it's not like the ratings are so bad. It's just that nobody's watching TV.
I have two questions for you guys. Are they doing their best to put on a great show?
Listen, you know what the problem is? The problem is
honestly, no. It's a yes or no question.
The answer is at this point in time, yes or no. This is when they usually amp up. So as the booking starting last week or 2 weeks ago, they're putting on good shows, building to WrestleMania, and that's usually how it goes.
Listen, James, the problem is there's too much programming. You have 3 hours of Raw, 2 hours of SmackDown, an hour of NXT, an hour of 205, and now there's 2 pay-per-views every month. That's so much. That's a lot of. That's
2 pay-per-views every month is too much.
Listen, that's a lot of. That's 30, probably like 30 hours of writing, and that's a lot of stuff. Now just look yesterday, Wrestle Kingdom 12. All right, whatever. It's a great big show. Blah blah blah. Oh, now imagine that Wrestle Kingdom had to come back today with 3 hours of live programming. You see how hard that is, and then come back Saturday with another.
I understand that they have. I understand they have a lot of programming, Frank. I'm asking from a creative standpoint, what is stopping them?
I don't know, talent, good ideas. It's hard, James. It's harder than you think to come up with.
James, it's really simple. There's too many cooks in the creative kitchen.
Right, yeah. That's true. But listen, it's also very hard to come up with that next $1 million idea. If it was that easy, they would have had another Hulk Hogan. They would have had another Macho Man.
Well, Frank, let me tell you something. I have had terrible, arguments with Nick thousands of times on the page. He knew enough to turn Roman Reigns heel last year after he retired The Undertaker. It's not that difficult. Right, Vince has in his head, this is probably the last guy Vince is ever going to pick. In his mind, what I believe, this is my guy, this is who I'm running with, I'm going to run it to the end, and everyone else be damned.
Listen, I think
that's what I think.
I think the end already came for Roman. Listen, it's not this. Listen, James, this isn't 2011, 2012, where Cena's winning the belt every pay-per-view. They're pushing Braun. You got guys like Elias getting big pushes. They're getting over. You know,
Frank, do you know what a big push is? Frank, do you know what a big push is?
Yeah, Braun Strowman.
A push is not getting TV time. A big push is not getting TV time. A big push is when you're winning consistently and you're winning where it matters. That's a push.
That's a championship push. There's two types of pushes.
Then I guess Undertaker got a championship push without getting any championships from 91 to 97.
But it's a championship push, and it's not a literal sense. It's a championship push where you're winning all the time, and you look. They're making you look strong. That's what it is.
Well, Frank, you just finished telling me they have over 30. You just finished telling me they have over 30 hours of time. Fill it up with people that matter.
Listen, James, not everybody. Listen, the fans can't remember all these. They can't start throwing 50 storylines in every show. That's a failure. You got to have
They did when they had less time. They did that when they had less time on television, when they only had SmackDown and Raw. You know that.
Back in those
Everyone
days,
had a storyline.
No, not really. The storyline.
Right, listen, guys.
Storyline was Stone Cold and The Rock.
Frank. That's right. Well, the story on the '90s was just all Stone Cold and Vince, so it was the same.
Stone Cold, Vince, and The Rock, and then they would throw in one guy every 3 months to work with those guys.
But looking to the future here, we're in January. Frank, who's going to be the breakout star of this year in WWE?
It's going to be either Elias, Jason Jordan, or maybe Chad Gable.
All right, and
or maybe Braun Strowman. Maybe.
Well, Braun, I think, broke out late. He was last year.
Yeah, but maybe he might like really.
Right. And then James, you can answer this if you want, and I'm sure you got a lot of NXT guys you'd like to mention.
I'd honestly like to see Chad Gable get like a U.S. title run. Honestly, if I heard that he won the title, I'd be genuinely happy for him. I'd like to see The Miz get a heel run with the world title and then drop it to someone at a Big Four pay-per-view. I think that would be nice. I think, despite what Frank thinks, I'd like to see Aleister Black get called up and be treated the same way he's treated on NXT. You know, when Macho Man Randy Savage was in Memphis and he came to the WWF, they didn't change the way they portrayed him. They portrayed him exactly the same, just on a bigger stage. So
Frank, we'll end it with your thoughts on Aleister Black.
I mean, who relates to that character?
No one.
Yeah, it's very small.
You'd be surprised.
All right, but it's, James, it's you got to think about the average WWE fan. You know, it's I don't know.
Yeah, but you also need to. Let me ask you guys a question. Are any of you fans of Goldberg?
Yes.
Either of you?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm going to quote Bill Goldberg on something when he was describing WCW. The reason WCW worked so well was because there was something in it for everybody. Whether you wanted to see the cruiserweights, whether you wanted to see the Nitro Girls, whether you wanted to see Goldberg smash someone in 2 minutes, whether you wanted to see the Horsemen, whether you wanted to see the NWO, whether you wanted to see a dark character like Sting, we had something for everybody.
Yes.
So
yes, but the draw was the NWO. And
I understand that, but what I'm trying to explain is there is a place for Aleister. That's all I'm saying.
Listen, Frank,
I'm not saying he's got to win the Rumble and win the belt, but there's a place for him.
Yeah, it's called 205 Live with Hideo Itami.
Yes,
I think.
Man, you guys are something else.
James, the guy's he's like he's like 210 pounds.
But James, just to off NXT, the best talent in NXT is the Velveteen Dream. But I don't think his character is going to work on the main roster, but the wrestler himself, Patrick Clark, is a phenomenal talent, and I think he could be a big star. But
I'll put it to you this way. I watched Aleister Black and the Velveteen Dream with Ike, who is a casual viewer at best. She stopped watching when Eddie died because Eddie was her favorite. When she watched that match with me, she turned around and said to me, "That was one of the most fun matches I've watched in a while." And I said, "You want to know what I think was great about it in that match? That was the perfect example of in-ring psychology. There was one finish. It was the end of the match. And guess what? When it was over, the way they finished it, both guys came out looking good. Now, NXT. But I'd like to see whoever's writing Raw and SmackDown get fired and put these people up on the main roster, because let me tell you something, that match was better than any match I've seen all year. And I still haven't watched Wrestle Kingdom yet. I'm watching that Saturday night. And whoever wants to come by and watch it, be my guest. I'm hosting.
Frank, your thoughts?
Velveteen, he's only 22. He's definitely the right now. If you consider the NXT the minors, he's definitely the blue chip prospect. Right.
His finishing move, James. You said it wasn't a finish, but like his crazy DDT was. I don't think anybody else could do that.
I saw him go off the top rope, do an elbow off the top rope. The guy went, oh my god.
His elbow is his. The elbow is his finish, but I agree with Nick. The DDT that he does, my wife was like, I think Alistair's neck is broken. The whole match was great. The whole match was great from start to finish. I loved it. And it's been a long time since I've said that I've watched the match and said, oh my God, I loved it. That was great.
He's definitely got a lot of athletic skills. So I guess that's going to wrap it up.
Both of them do. It's like American Alpha. Both Chad Gable and Jason Jordan, I think, are talented. And it's the same thing here with Alistair and Velveteen Dream. I think they're both talented. And I think that's what you guys miss with me. I think there's a ton of talented guys on that roster, Roman Reigns included. I just think that they're not being used to the best of their ability. That's all I'm saying.
We'll see.
I think that's a fair statement.
Well, that's gonna do it for this show. It's 2018 now, and watch wrestling and have no fear. The 2017 Rolling Stone Wrestler of the Year is back next week on Raw.
All right, so guys.
Oh, I'm sure Nick is all giggly tits for the Miz.
I want to see him talk some smack to Roman again.
We'll see what happens.
If he does that, he'll end up eating a spear.
All right, guys. Thank you. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you soon.